Hello, my name is Brendan Cooper and I'm in your Mean 225 class. I'm here to talk to you today about a trigger mechanism. This is the mechanism I created. It's a trigger basically for a revolver, or it's a double action trigger for a revolver, so it would, if I put the components in, also rotate the barrel as well as cock back the hammer. So here you can see the hammer moving back and forth as it would strike the bullet, and the trigger actually doing the triggering of the mechanism. So right here, the trigger is pulled back with about 30 newtons of force, and then the hammer is slid up along that upper corner of the trigger, and once it slides off, a bottom spring pushes it back onto the bullet, and that's what creates the force to allow the bullet to ignite. This is the actual simulation of the system without the cleanness of the photorealistic effect, as it says in SimWise. And you can see here that when it strikes the bullet, it's not actually, it wouldn't be giving the bullet a velocity. That's just for me to determine how fast and with what force the hammer is striking an object in front of it. From impulse, I can gather that it's about 1.5 newtons of force, which seems a little bit low, but considering the system is it's inaccurate in its setup in general, it seems fairly decent for a force. The velocity seems reasonable. So the first two simulations, you can see that you could tell that they were very slow. They were running at 1,000 frames a second, and so that's about 25 seconds per second in reality. This last simulation is run at about 2 seconds a second, and so it looks a lot more like what you would think a trigger would look like on a gun. And here are the stress results for my trigger system, and as you can see, they're all blue. I mean, there's no huge stresses that are applied here, except for at the tip of the hammer where it touches the trigger block, and around some of the fillets where the pieces are mounted into the gun and rotate around those pivot points. There's a few forces. So there's some blue in there, some lighter blue in there, to show the stress from the separator that I put in there. I couldn't get the two pieces to obey exactly like they were touching each other, so what I had to do was put a separator in between the tip of the hammer block and the trigger block, which creates like a contact surface, but only in one point. So you see that blue edge right there on the corner is only expressive of that one point of contact, which is why it's off center from the rest of it. Placing the constraint into the system was hard because you have to have the two pieces close together to start with, and to select each surface in the right place with a mouse is not accurate, but I did the best that I could. So this is right as the trigger is going up, and this is also right before it releases, and you can see there's some stress around the rotation of the hammer, and that's about as critical as it gets. Once the spring brings it back to regular position, the stress starts to dissipate. Now there also should be stresses around these localized springs wherever it connects to the block, but they didn't come out in the results. I think just because that kind of constraint doesn't produce an actual effect on the block. I was having some sort of error with that. And this is the video to show you how it would be used in reality.
Pull the trigger and basically pushes that over, or pushes that up, which freezes the hammer, and when the back of the trigger clears, oops, let me do that again. When it clears, the hammer drops.